would you feel comfortable adhering to the teachings of the magisterium in how you vote? Will that inform your vote?
As a Catholic?
Yes.
Absolutely. I would tell you this. One of the things, Mike and I were driving down here, and I says, I have a real problem. You're either a Republican or not a Republican. You're either a Catholic or you're not a Catholic. You can't say, I'm a Catholic, but I don't believe in all this stuff, but I'm still a Catholic. You can't say I'm a Republican, but I don't believe in all these Republican issues. I'm just running into the Republican Party because that's the way to go. What you have from me is a guy who believes in the core values of the Republican Party. Now, I will tell you, Republicans had their chance, and they made some big mistakes. But I still believe in those core values. Less government, less taxes, personal responsibility, and a strong military. Strong Republican values. From a Catholic standpoint, I believe wholeheartedly in the Catholic religion. That will always be a background. Absolutely. Let's go back here first.
Are you at this point receiving funding from any one group, a large corporate entity, or special interest group?
No, I wish I was, but I'm not. I mean, to be honest with you, you need about it's an interesting question because you really do need about $3 million to win this election. All right, it's sad because when I first started running, I had no clue what it would take to win this election. In fact, I just thought, hey, when I ran for mayor, I think it cost me $3,000. All right, so when somebody said, what's it cost you to run for Congress, I thought, well, maybe 30,000, 50,000. Seriously. I found out that John Bocelli spent $4 million to win this seat and realized we had some problems. So the answer is, the only way you can also win this election is you've got to be able to raise the money. Now, why do you need to raise the money? I'm going to give you my little election process that I've learned. Because a lot of people will tell you, you don't need to raise the money because the voters will vote for you. Absolutely. The voters will vote for you. But here's what I learned after almost 7 months on a campaign trail. I thought after 7 months on the campaign trail, everybody was going to know who Jim Renacci was. Heck, I'm out every morning at 7 o'clock. I'm coming home every night at 11 o'clock. I can't meet any more people. Everybody's got to know who I am. Right? We did a poll. 67% of the people didn't know who any of the candidates were. Any of the candidates were. Now think about that. You may know some of the candidates and think, oh, that can't be right because I know that candidate. 67% of the people. It was interesting because that same weekend I went to a wedding. I talked to a guy that I hadn't seen for 10 years, used to be my neighbor. He says, man, I understand you're running for Congress. I said, yeah. He goes, so you're going to travel down to Columbus every day? I go, oh, no, this isn't. Now, this guy was an executive for a major company, 31 years. And I said, no. And I said, I'm actually running for Ralph Reagan's seat. He goes, oh, I thought Ralph Reagan was still in there. So when you think about that, and that's a lesson that I had to learn, 67% of the people. So why do you need the money? Because no matter what, you all are informed, and you're here tonight. But there's, what, 40 people here out of 460,000? 60% of the people do not know who the candidates are. Now, what I have learned is since I've sent those letters out, 67% of the people know who Jim Renacci is. All right? And that's part of the process. And if you take a look at that literature and you read it and you understand it, it'll tell you exactly what I stand for. That costs me money, and that's the reason you have to do that. So, why do you have to raise money? We're only dealing with 70,000 of the 460,000 voters right now because the Republican primary will be about 70,000 people. There's a lot of voters out there. And you're going to need every bit of $3 million to win this election. To get $3 million, you have to have the national party behind you. Whether you like it or not, don't get mad at me. The national party has to get behind you because they're a part of the dollars necessary. Now, you already heard that the National Party has raised me up to one of the top 10 candidates in the country. I will have the support of the National Party. And I heard one of the candidates say, well, if I win the primary, I'm going to have the support of the National Party. How come I'm the only candidate out of 4 that's met with the National Party? How come I'm the only guy that they know? Do you really think that on May 4th, the National Party is going to say, oh, you won that primary, come on in? Come on. That's a problem. Don't condemn the guy because he's worked very hard to go down and meet with the National Party and get them to know who I am. Don't condemn the guy who's raised a lot of money from shaking people's hand and asking them. And believe me, I've gotten pretty good at that. Because in the beginning, my campaign staff said, you got to go ask people for money. I said, I'm not doing that. I've spent 27 years of my life earning money. But what I did learn is you got to ask. Because when you ask, people will give. If you don't ask, they'll never give. And here's the other thing. Once they give, even if it's $1, they're behind you. They're behind you. So I am proud to say that I've raised somewhere between $600,000 and $700,000 since I've got in this race. The closest candidate to me has raised about $48,000, and the other two candidates I think raised zero. But that hasn't come from anything but hard work, asking people for money and getting them to support me. So again, I think that's a process that we have to go through. But I don't have any of the big money yet. I'm hoping that that comes in, because I'm going to need close to $3 million to make this election work. But I'm going to work real hard to continue to earn the support of the people here too, and the vote.
You were mentioning core values of being Republican, one of them being reduced taxes. I personally believe that there's three phases of destroying the United States. The first one was the selective bailouts and the banking system. The second one was the debacle of the healthcare system and the selective process. And the third one coming up is the VAT versus fair tax plan. How do you feel about that? Just so before you answer, my opinion is 40 years ago when Europe decided to go with the VAT, their tax ratio was identical to the United States. In 40 years, they paid 250% more than what we pay because of that. And look where they're at financially right now. The European Union is being destroyed by certain states going under. We're going to be destroyed by certain states going under, such as California and such. And if we go to the VAT, it will totally disrupt our economy. What do you feel?
Well, let me tell you, I'll go with number one. The bailouts cost, if you think about the spending we have, the bailouts cost us $4 trillion. You want to reduce taxes, you can't spend that $4 trillion. I didn't believe in the bailouts. I believe that, in fact, the current legislation in front of Congress that they're talking about now for Wall Street, look, I believe the people in Wall Street that made mistakes not only should be penalized, they should be in jail. But I also don't believe that the government should set up a standard that would allow companies to be bailed out every time they fail. That's a problem too, and that's one of the problems we have with the legislation, the Republicans have with the legislation currently in Congress. So to answer you, number one, we shouldn't have bailouts. That's $4 million, or $4 trillion. The second thing you talked about was, what was the second issue?
Healthcare.
Healthcare is going to cost you $1 trillion. Another thing, when it costs you $1 trillion, the only place you get that money is taxes. So of course I was against that. And the VAT tax, I'm absolutely opposed to. Absolutely opposed to. Look, you heard me. Less taxes. I'm a small business owner today. If you can allow me to pay less taxes, I'm going to have more money to employ people. If I have more money to employ people, they're going to pay taxes. They're going to buy product. They're going to consume things, and this economy is going to come back. If you keep taxing me, like all these other small businesses, and by the way, the small business owner employs 77% of the employment, non-government employment in this country, the small business owner. You've got to give the small business owner an opportunity to employ people. If you do that, like myself, I have 3 businesses and I will not hire another person. Why? Predictability and certainty. We don't have that now. As a small business owner, you don't know what your taxes are going to be. You don't know what the health care plan is going to cost you. And you don't know what the government's going to do to you next. So what are you doing? Not only me, all my other businesses owners that I know are laying low and saying, we're not doing anything. That's a problem. We've got to get employment back, but we've got to get that back with predictability and certainty, less government regulation and less taxes. So hopefully I answered your